This looks like I'm drinking.
Pinky up. Yep.
You know it's not alcohol because I didn't go. Uh,
Or a penis.
well, I don't gag on those. I'm more committed.
Welcome.
What's up, everybody? This is the Jocker Room bringing the itch back for you this week. And draft has happened. Draft occurred. We got a lot of stuff to cover today in terms of draft talk. We've had some rumors come out since the draft that we wanted to cover. In case any of you haven't heard, there are some people the Vikings were targeting that they didn't end up getting. Oh God, don't reveal the secrets. We're good. We're good. We're good. But yeah, we're going to talk about the picks, what we thought. We did have that quick video that came out the day of the draft that said at least what I was thinking. The quarterback that I wanted the most did get drafted before the Vikings were available to pick.
To everyone's surprise,
yeah, and then
including the other
QB I wanted the
31
least
teams.
ended up getting drafted by the Vikings. So let's talk about.
I'm sure there were some later round quarterbacks that you
out of
probably
the
were,
five
but I
main
know what you mean.
ones,
I
he
know what
was
you mean.
number
Right.
5.
Sure.
Let's talk about the draft. First pick with number 10 overall, first ever top 10 quarterback by the Vikings ever. JJ McCarthy, quarterback, Michigan, 6'1", 6'2", measured in at 219, but his playing weight is closer to about 205, 199-ish. Probably is going to need to put on some weight if he wants to succeed, but his
To absorb a hit and not
yeah,
get
he's
just
one of the guys
obliterated.
that packed on pounds before the combine to make sure he measured at a more ideal weight.
Sure.
But measured in at 219, but his more realistic can be around 205, maybe even a little lighter.
Outside of maybe Drake May and Bo Nix, I'm sure all the other 4 probably would have to hit the
Jaden
weight room
Daniels,
too.
100%. He put on a bunch.
Yeah, he was kind of scrawny considering.
Yeah. Well, one of my favorite stories of quarterbacks that ever did that was last year, Bryce Young. They said that he almost had to be carried to the bathroom because he was holding in such a large dump because he wanted to keep as much weight on as
like
possible.
Paul
And
Pierce.
like he had to, basically wheelchair to the bathroom because Bryce Young was trying to hold in so much weight that he wasn't allowing himself to poop.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I
mean,
think
outside of
Jaden
Drake
Daniels was probably
May,
that level.
sure, Drake May is obviously has like the frame people are looking for, and
Same with Caleb Williams.
Bo Nix is just kind of like thick.
He's
I guess.
muscular.
Yeah, he's like wide compared to them. Yeah, but I mean, even Caleb to some extent probably has to hit the weight room a little bit.
Yeah.
All 4 of those guys outside of like Drake May and Nix, I think probably need to put on some muscle, put on some weight.
Penix, I think, is probably okay. I think JJ McCarthy, Jaden Daniels, Caleb Williams probably all have the most focus on in terms of body, but yeah, let's if you follow on Twitter, I wasn't a huge fan. If you watch that video, I wasn't a huge fan of that pick. I've said it throughout the whole draft process. I didn't understand JJ McCarthy's rise. I don't understand why people thought he was even a first round quarterback, let alone a top 10. I hope I'm wrong. I am excited to see what the Vikings do. He's in the best situation. You hear that from the national media. He's in the best situation, best chance to succeed for any rookie quarterback is with the Vikings. So if he is going to be good, this is the best team for him to do it. But it's also one of those situations where I think calling somebody just a winner tends to be more of a negative than a positive, and that tends to be the main compliment people have, especially when it comes to game tape. He doesn't really have a ton of it, so they just say he's a leader, he's a winner, all that stuff.
I think the one thing that surprises me and the mainstay in regards to JJ McCarthy's throwing is in 3rd and 4th down, where he was the most efficient out of all the 6 quarterbacks. So, I mean, from a passing standpoint, 3rd and 8 or longer, he was very efficient. But
And there's a whole lot of different things that come into all those, like all the numbers. You can say that JJ McCarthy doesn't have great passing numbers. Part of it is he had the most dominant, best roster in college football,
right.
so he didn't need to.
Defense, rushing,
But yeah,
O-line.
like they
Right.
were their Blake Corum was insane, and their defense was also absolutely insane.
Sure.
His worst game was against Penn State. Well, that's because Chop Robinson was on the other side. Like
Right.
the reason they didn't pass in the second half against Penn State is because they couldn't. They straight up said they couldn't block Chop Robinson, so they couldn't. They knew JJ McCarthy couldn't pass. So you have a bunch of reasons. Like JJ McCarthy was efficient on third down because they were often in third and shorts because their offense was so
Right.
potent.
Yeah,
So he
I think I did see though that in the third and longer situations when he was forced to throw more than like 8 yards or so, third and long situations, he was really good on those downs as well.
sure,
But
sure.
I mean, once again, you could attribute that to the success of the team around him as well. But
And you can argue he had the best coach out of all the prospects. You could
sure,
argue there's a whole lot of different things. I think that with the draft, with any position, any player, like JJ McCarthy might be the best quarterback we ever see. Caleb Williams might be the best we ever see. Any of them could be the
the
biggest bust.
the quarterback, the chance for a player to, and I'm just going to use quarterback and center for this example, for the player drafted in the first round to get a second contract from that team in regards to first round picks. Sorry, there's a little speck of gross whatever on my screen. Quarterbacks get a second contract 46% of the time if you're a first round pick quarterback. So out of these 6 quarterbacks, 3 of them are probably going to fail just based on the statistics.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the
We
most
won't know with
successful
Michael
rate,
Penix because he's going to be sitting on this team for a
4 or 5,
while, so
you see
till he's
that
30.
Mike Fontenot or whatever, Terry Fontenot was like, yeah, 4 or 5 years he may have to sit. And I'm like,
You
okay.
draft the oldest quarterback to have him sit. That's just
Yeah,
awesome.
it's very odd. But centers have the highest hit rate. It's like 83 to 89% or
Yeah.
something
Yep.
from getting a,
Interior linemen and centers.
yeah. So,
Um, Overall, so I wanted Penix.
right.
The Vikings wanted Drake May. They
Well,
tried to trade up, and the
they
details
won
came
it.
out of what they were going. Overall, I just
Yeah.
a quick thing on JJ McCarthy. I'm trying to be positive on it because I'm a Vikings fan. I do want
Right.
to let all those people know that say you have to root for him because if otherwise you're not a Vikings fan, you're stupid. I mentioned this on Twitter. That's like saying you have to like the president if you're an American. You
Right.
don't. No, you don't have to. It's better to root for the team
The
because it's
team. Right.
hateful. Like I just had like I needed some time to sit and like think about it
Sure.
because I hated the pick at first, so
Right.
I had a bad mindset. And as I just needed some time to myself. As I thought about it, I just think we're going to be more like teams like the Niners, where um, your offensive numbers are going to rely on skilled playmakers. Your ability to win games are going to rely on your defense and those playmakers and your coach. And it's up to your quarterback not to lose the game, but your quarterback will most likely never win you the game. I think that's going to be our team. It's going to JJ McCarthy's going to do well because he's not going to throw picks, but he will never be that guy that throws for 460 yards and 5 touchdowns. I just
Sure.
don't see that'll ever happen. And much like Brock Purdy, Jimmy Garoppolo, as long as he doesn't throw interceptions, he's probably going to win a lot of games. But because he's not going to wow people, you're going to hear constant discussions all year, every year about is he really that guy? Well, he wins a lot of games. He's won a lot of games his whole life.
Sure.
And I really think that's the direction
I
the
think
Vikings are going
it's,
to go, which
I
is
think
why they
it's,
went where they went with the draft and free agency.
Sure. I think it's tough from like team success in regards to quarterbacks because at the end of the day, 31 quarterbacks don't win the Super
Mm-hmm.
Bowl. And so all those people that said, "Oh, well, Kirk Cousins can never get you there." Well, 31 or 30 other quarterbacks also didn't get you there.
Right.
So
Nobody says
it's
that about Josh Allen, but he's never made it there either.
right, right. And Burrow lost it. Hurts lost it. Lamar
Right.
hasn't made it there. So I mean, like, yeah, it's one of those things where like you hope that they They get JJ. They have a plan for him. It sounds like they have like a really detailed plan for him and his progression going forward. But
we
and
got a
you
lot of
just
guys ready for Yak. We got a George Kittle style tight end. We got a Debo style runner in Addison, and we got a deep threat slash Yak guy in JJ.
right,
I genuinely think they're building this team like the Niners, where they're focusing heavily on defense and line and relying on skill players, where they think the best chance to succeed is with a cheap quarterback that's job is to not win you the game, but to not lose it.
sure.
I just think that's where we're going. We'll see. And again, I would love if he puts up the numbers. Do I think he'll be as good as Kirk? I don't.
Well,
But
yeah,
does
I mean, I don't think you can expect any rookie to be a top 5 quarterback kind of
right.
guy, but
And do I think that he has the potential? Sure. I listened to a couple of his interviews this week. He interviewed with Paul Allen, our world, our countrywide famous,
our
our
world.
world famous. He's actually an awesome local guy. A lot of people across the country know him.
Yeah, right.
LeBron
LeBron, Sean.
James, shout him out, and Pat McAfee, all these different guys. He interviewed on there. I wasn't impressed with the interview, but I also didn't go away with it thinking, oh, great. He just had basically 100% stereotypical freebie answers that you get, and that's what I would expect from every quarterback.
Sure.
Position players, defensive players, offensive linemen, they always have a lot more fun interviews. Head coaches and quarterbacks, it's always boring as hell.
Yeah,
So from that standpoint, he had the right answers. Um,
sure.
I don't want to go too long on that anymore. So that's all I have to say on JJ. I hope I'm wrong in terms of talent wise, but do I still think we can win? Absolutely. I just
Yeah.
think it'll be different than what we've seen the past few years with Kirk.
Right.
Turns out he was not their first option. He was
He
kind of
was
their two.
2A. He was, yeah. I think they had Penix and him 2A,
Yeah, Penix,
2B,
Penix
right?
and him. It turns out so their number one option was Drake May.
Right.
Turns out since
The
now that the draft's
price was
over,
so high.
it
Yeah.
was they wanted 11, 23, 2025's first, 2024
Fives.
fourth rounder, a 2024 fifth rounder, a 2025 fourth rounder, and a 2025 fifth rounder.
Right.
That was what the Patriots asked.
Right.
So
I did see something in regards to that 2025 third too. So maybe it did shift from one of those fourth and fifths to that third that we have as well. But
okay.
we ended up trading that anyway.
Basically,
So
they wanted 7 picks,
a
including
haul, which is
three
something.
firsts and 4 fourths and 4 other picks
Four
between
day
third and
3
fifth.
picks.
Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, 3
Sure.
firsts and 4 day 3 picks.
They turned down
For one.
they also turned down the Giants 2024 first, 2025 first, 2024 second, and 2024 fourth. So
Correct, because they said for the Giants, they also demanded another first.
right,
So for the Giants, they wanted the 2026 first in there
right.
as well. That was the only way they were going to
That's to
accept it.
move up
So
3 spots. So
that
that's
price is
wild.
just too high. Would we have preferred Drake May? Drake May, yes. Would the Vikings have preferred Drake May? Clearly. And then the Vikings were apparently they were willing to wait till 11 to draft their quarterback because they were fine with either Penix or McCarthy.
Right.
And if both were available, it sounds like they were going to take McCarthy.
Yeah, I think it was like 2A and 2B, but they were also waiting for a domino to fall first.
Correct. They were
And
just
that
waiting to
Penix
see who
one.
got drafted, Penix or McCarthy, and they were going to take
Right.
the other.
Sure.
Which just made my blood boil a little bit because of how badly I wanted Penix.
Right.
And because Penix comes into this offense day one to start, as
Right.
opposed to when you think of JJ McCarthy, everybody's like, he's probably going to sit a whole year.
Yeah.
When you think of Michael Penix, it's like, okay, well, he's ready to start now.
Sure. Or if you're
Which
Atlanta in the next 4 to 5 years
right,
too.
which I thought was funny. What like that was my like comparing talent levels when you put either JJ McCarthy, Michael Penix, some of these other guys on other teams. JJ McCarthy's sitting on most of these other teams while Penix is starting, like Raiders, Broncos,
Sure.
all this stuff. And that was another way where I was like, did we get the best guy? We'll find out.
Sure.
Michael Penix was obviously the big surprise, but that's who I wanted.
Sure.
The Falcons did exactly what I wanted. overall. They just signed Kirk for longer than I would have been comfortable. If we
Right.
could have gotten
And gave
Kirk
him
for
more
2
money.
years,
They gave him like 2.5 guaranteed when we wanted to give him just the one or something
right?
like that.
Imagine if
So
we got Kirk for 2 years and then drafted Michael Penix. That's exactly what I wanted
sure.
the Vikings to do.
Right.
But still, I wish nothing but best to all of the 6 rounders. Bo Nix, I hope you suck for a year so that Sean Payton loses his job and then you turn it around.
Right.
Um, and then all the other guys, I hope they come in. Caleb Williams, I hope it's a shootout and the Vikings have a tough matchup twice a year. I hope we beat him both times, but I hope he's awesome.
Sure.
It'd be nice to see the Bears actually have a good quarterback and then have this NFC North just
I
be
saw
an insane division.
someone did a preview of what they thought Caleb Williams would throw, and they had him at 5,456 yards. And
No,
I was
that's
like,
not going to
sorry,
happen.
what? What?
No,
Sorry, wait a
no.
sec.
He's gonna do what he's gonna. He potentially will be the best rookie stats not ever, and even then, you're probably looking at like 3,530 at best.
Yeah.
At best.
Yeah.
I think Drake May is gonna do well. He's probably gonna sit a year. I thought he should have. I wanted Drake May to go to the Giants in terms of fit. Vikings would have been awesome as well, but Jaden Daniels, the team worries me, but with new ownership, all of them. I hope all those guys do
Yeah.
really well. Bo
What's
Nix, I
the
hope you
one thing
suck
that
for a year
scares
so
me
Sean Payton gets fired.
with Daniels is that field is arguably the worst field in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
And he runs around a bit.
A lot.
So that scares me in regards to him. But
Um,
we should
yeah,
probably move on from QBs.
that's it for
Yeah.
QBs.
Yeah.
Next pick was the big one. I thought a lot of people thought really highly of the Vikings draft overall. Locally, everybody's giving it like A's and A pluses. National media is giving it like a C overall. So
Right.
national media doesn't really like the Vikings draft. Local people like it. Sometimes
It's
that
because we
happens.
gave up all those kind of midday day three
Well, and I
capital.
think a
Call
lot
it
of national
capital.
media doesn't view JJ McCarthy as high as the
Right.
Midwest does.
I mean, a lot of the analysts in the draft had him like 15 to 25 in regards to like the best prospect out there. So
Yeah.
I mean, the people that
But
do that for their everyday job. I
A
mean,
plus, you can't argue Dallas Turner.
right. Yeah. I
Dallas
mean,
Turner was the
consensus,
best
the
defensive
best.
player in the
Yeah.
draft. Like
Right.
not even close. There's you got Verse, Latu, you got a couple
Leatu,
other
Latu,
guys
yeah.
that you could
Byron
have
Murphy.
argued, but Dallas Turner is the one that can come in day one, and he's not even projected to start. So
Yeah.
that just shows you how good the defense has gotten over this offseason, which is why again
Right.
I think the Vikings are
I
focusing on
think he
defense.
will. I think he will. I think with
Who's
how
benched behind him?
I think Van Ginkel's the guy that can kind of fill in every position besides that. Because
Sure.
Van Ginkel played middle, he played edge. But I mean I feel like Dallas Turner is just a guy you gotta put out there. And you
Yeah,
could even
I would
bring Van
agree.
Ginkel out there too and just have this disgusting blitz package.
Right, which
So
is a very Flores defense. It's a bunch
right.
of guys that can play every position across the field. There's somebody we drafted, a couple people we drafted later that I'll talk about that as well. Where Flores, this is definitely his defense. If Flores gets a head coaching job after this, I hope the next guy that comes in knows how to run his defense because we need a guy like a Flores, D'Amico Ryans to handle
Sure.
the level of players we have because they all have specific skill sets. Dallas
Right.
Turner is going to be good no matter what.
Right.
I think right away he's going to be good. He's the favorite to win defensive player of the year.
Right.
And I agree with you. I think eventually he might not start game one, but by the end of the season, he's our starter.
Sure. Opposite Grenard.
Yeah, it'll be Grenard 100%. He got way
Right.
too much money
Yeah.
for him
Right.
not to start.
Yeah.
Van Ginkel, like you said, he could go to middle, but Ivan Pace is there. So
Right. Pace and Cashman, I mean, he'll start there, but I think Van
right.
Ginkel could just fill in for any one of those guys
Well,
and
and
come
in
in
any
for
3-4 or a 2-5 lineup,
right.
2-5 was popular in the Patriots when Flores was
Right.
there.
Our D line sucks, so 2-5 is very.
I definitely think 2-5 is going to be a hybrid setup that we see a lot of, like
Right.
100%. I think we're going to see a lot of it.
Because outside of Harrison Phillips, we had no D lineman worth talking about last
Which
year.
is why our run defense is probably going to struggle, but our pass defense is probably going to be locked down.
Sure.
So yeah, Dallas Turner. I'd give that an A plus. I'm more on the national media side with JJ. I think it's closer to like a C minus, C plus,
Sure,
somewhere in there.
sure.
Um, but again,
I think the big thing there is they hit the need. You know,
yep,
the biggest things they lost, quarterback and edge, they replaced. You know,
right,
so
absolutely. And I'm totally fine with that. And
sure.
I think they're still going to win games because of guys like Dallas Turner.
Right.
Next, Kyrie Jackson.
Right. 6'3" and a
But
half is
that's a huge bitch.
it's a huge dude.
So he's listed as a corner. I don't think he's going to play corner in our system.
Sure.
A lot of my cousins, my family members, even my friend Sam texted me asking about him. He played corner a little bit in college or a good amount in college, but he also played like a hybrid safety role. I think in our system, you're going to see him listed as DB, kind of like how you saw Cam Bynum,
Sure.
guys like Josh Metellus.
Kyrie Jackson excelled in college in short yardage press situations and
Right.
red zone. So like
Exactly.
he's gonna get up in your face, he's gonna jam you at the line of scrimmage, and he's probably would just get obliterated deep if he
If
could get
I'm
around you.
him,
So
I look at what Josh Metellus is doing and emulate 100% of what you can of his game.
right.
Because if he does, then we have two guys that are going to be all over the field. He's going to play a sub linebacker position, which Dallas Turner is going to be that sub linebacker for most of it. But
Sure.
he's going to be that sub nickel linebacker. He is most likely not going to play slot, but if he has to line up a tight end, he could. He could line up at safety. He
Sure.
can line up at corner. He's going to be all over the place. It's just the Vikings have the veterans that can teach him where his
Yeah.
game lacks. The Vikings have Cam Bynum, Josh Metellus, Harrison Smith. All those guys can teach him what he needs to learn.
But
So
Byron
I
Murphy
love that pick
too. Like
actually.
Byron Murphy's been played slot towards the end of last year. So
I
Byron
gave
Murphy's
when I
on the
was looking at
smaller
it, my
side.
first thought was B plus A minus for the
Sure.
Kyrie Jackson. So
Sure.
I thought okay pick, amazing pick for the
Sure.
first three. Walter Rouse, that was a little bit of a question for me.
A lot of people were like, "Why are we drafting a tackle?" When Kwesi right after the draft said, "Well, he's got a lot of the intangibles we're looking for on someone that can move inside."
Mm-hmm.
So Walter Rouse didn't give up a sack all last year. I think it was like one pressure. So he's got good footwork. And they need kind of they've had someone like an Oli Udo, not a good example. But Blake Brandell, one of those guys that can fill tackle and guard.
Mm-hmm.
They like those kind of people, and so I think Walter Rouse is that guy that can
Right.
play kind of both. So
What I like about Rouse, so I think as a tackle in the NFL he would struggle. Um, but again, similar to Kyrie Jackson, we have guys on the team that can teach him where he could struggle. They could help him out. What I really like is his stability at his hips and below. When he's playing, his hip stability is just what I look for in good interior linemen. It's where I thought Ed Ingram could develop. It's just he needed to work on his upper body.
right.
Same thing with Rouse. If he works on that upper body, he could become a really versatile lineman. And I could see him eventually playing that potential left guard spot, fill in for where Reisner
So
was.
you're saying that where Ed Ingram excelled was run blocking, so the up and like
Which is where
straightforward, right?
Rouse is
But
definitely a
Ross is the side to
straightforward.
sure,
Him and Ingram, I see the same. They have good stability in their waist. Where they seem to struggle is that upper body. So being able to run block and just fall forward, they can still succeed.
right,
But as soon as they're asked to handle a skilled pass rusher on the other side, is where I could see them getting beat, which
sure,
is where Ingram struggled season one, and then he caught up season two. I think we're going to see something similar in Rouse. If he gets time in, he's going to struggle against a seasoned pass rusher. And
right,
then in the second season, we're going to see some growth.
sure.
Um,
You see him sticking on that left side, like kind of being behind Brandell then,
I
or do you think
I think he's fighting Ingram for the right spot,
sure,
but if Ingram beats him out, he's also going to be able to fight for the left spot.
sure,
So I think he probably favors that left side, but
right? Because I mean he was a left tackle, right?
yeah.
So right,
I definitely I see him on the left guard spot, but I think they drafted him to also push Ingram.
sure, sure,
The next Jurgens, I think he's gonna potentially be like he could be a practice squad guy.
Sure.
He's just drafted for depth, but maybe they found a little diamond in the rough
Yeah,
there.
that's a lot of people are saying that he could even push Bradbury, I suppose, because
Yeah.
Bradbury is one of those guys where his contract's not guaranteed. So like if you get rid of Bradbury, you actually save a good chunk of money.
What I
So
like
I
about
mean,
Jurgens is similar with
his
JJ
name,
McCarthy. You heard, yeah, I'm a very big fan of his family's lotion. I
yeah,
use it constantly. It's why I need carpal tunnel surgery. But what I like about him is what you hear about JJ McCarthy. People love that his teammates like him. What I have heard is that Jurgens was one of those guys where he was like funny in the locker room and like teammates liked him. So we'll
like a
take that.
Brian O'Neill, he'll kind of fit in.
Well, and
Yeah,
that's the thing is Brian O'Neill's super quiet, apparently. He's like a super quiet, reserved guy until you get to know him.
yeah,
And I think Jurgens is kind of going to be similar. So that
sure,
where they could have found a diamond in the rough in him. I just don't see him getting play time right away.
sure.
Last pick was
We got two more. We got Reichard and Levi Drake
I
Rodriguez.
forgot to type them down for some reason. I forgot to type
Yeah,
Reichard down.
yeah,
Um, Reichard, I think, was an amazing pick.
sure.
Um, but
A lot of people gave the
Rouse,
Vikings an F for that one,
Rouse,
by
I
the
would
way.
give like a B, maybe a B
Sure.
minus. Jurgens, I'd probably just give like a B minus,
It's a
C
seventh
plus.
rounder. People
Yeah,
people were getting so upset with those later picks, and it's
yeah.
like, dude, you're throwing a dartboard with a blind. You're throwing
That's
a
why it's
dart with
like
a
that's a
blindfold
diamond in
on,
the rough
man.
guy. We'll
Right,
see.
right,
Reichard, I give an A.
sure,
It's a team that needed both a kicker and a punter. I know a lot of people like Ryan Wright. If you like being a nerd about punting, I like being a nerd about punting. Ryan Wright has a lot of room to grow. Um, I thought they
he's
could have at least drafted somebody to push him, but
sure,
we definitely needed a kicker. We have an XFL kicker who could be good,
right.
but Reichard's going to be the starter.
I
Day
think
one,
giving
best
them
kicker in college football.
especially with them doing the XFL kickoff,
Mhm.
it's good bringing that guy in to kind of learn the intangibles of that,
Yeah,
sister, whatever.
absolutely.
So, but I think Reichard wins the job. I mean,
He
I
gets it.
mean,
I don't think the XFL guy has a shot now. You
yeah,
took the best kicker in college football by a
yeah.
mile. There was
Highest
no
score,
the next
highest
highest
scorer in
kicker that
FBS.
graded was probably way down. Even
Right.
though another kicker was taken shortly after he was, no other
Sure.
kicker gets close to him. Reichard
Sure.
is that guy you wanted. If you were
Right.
getting a kicker, similar like fantasy football, if you want a kicker, you just take him around early.
Tucker's the first guy off the board
You
every year.
take Justin
So
Tucker around earlier than you take most other
sure.
kickers. You take Reichard early if that's what you wanted, and I think the
Sure.
Vikings did that. So I wouldn't give it an F. I'd give it the opposite. I'd give it an A
Yeah,
because you
I
got
think
the
so.
exact
Another
position of
huge
need,
need. Yeah.
and it's the best player you could have gotten. There was
Right.
no free agent. There was no, and let's give him a little bit more time than we gave Daniel Carlson.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, I forgot to type him in, but got him down. The last
Yeah.
guy, maybe it's because I was so excited. I was very excited about this
I
player when we
love this
got him.
pick. Yeah, I love
Yeah,
this pick
Levi
too.
Drake Rodriguez, Texas A&M Commerce.
Uh, yeah.
He started out at like a Christian academy when before
Yeah.
he's for those of you that like the draft stories, the guys that
Right.
they have a good story, Ray Lewis
Right.
type guys that just
Yeah.
the people he loves.
Right.
Um,
Levi Drake Rodriguez didn't kill anyone, but I mean,
Well,
it's
no, like Will Ray Lewis loves the guys with stories.
got
He
yeah.
always
Right.
loved those
Right.
guys. This is the type of guy he would love.
Right.
Um, he's worked to every point he could get. He's never been given where he is in life. So I really like him. I think he's not going to stop pushing, whether he starts or not. He's going to keep trying.
Sure.
And I think because of that, he's going to be one of those guys that people are like, oh, he's on the edge. He's probably a practice squad or cut type guy.
Right.
I think he's making the 53 man. I texted you, I
Sure.
believe. I
Yeah,
said,
there's a couple undrafteds that I think are going to make the 53 man too. And also want to give since you're talking about Levi Drake Rodriguez, I also want to give a shout out to Jacqueline Roy that they drafted last year, who
yep,
came on, had a bunch of good reps when he got in there.
he's starting
Um,
now, starting
yeah,
D
and
tackle.
right. So like those, I mean, just D tackle may take a little while in Brian Flores' system to like make some noise. But Jacqueline Roy, I think, can be very good, and I think Levi Drake Rodriguez too
He's
can
gonna.
too.
I'm
So
for those of you who aren't familiar with him at all. check out some of the tape if you can find it. It's harder with those smaller school guys. He's awesome. Similar to you tweeted Dallas Turner runs like he's got it, like he's on drugs or he's
he's foaming at the mouth.
foaming at the mouth is what he said.
Yeah.
Levi Drake Rodriguez is like a controlled version of that.
Yeah.
It is constant. I am looking to make the right play, and I'm going to make it whether there's four guys in front of me or one.
Sure.
One of my favorite picks of the draft, and we got him in the 7th round.
Yeah.
I give his pick an A because that is
sure
awesome.
My favorite Levi Drake Rodriguez stat is, and I saw it shortly after. Byron Murphy II was the #1 graded. And I know we don't use PFF, but it's still, there's some stats in there that make sense. Byron Murphy II was the #1 rated pass rushing and pass rush win percentage D tackle. Levi Drake Rodriguez was 2nd. So to get someone who has that much success in a pass rushing scenario, I don't know how his run stuffing is, like run defense, but to have that skill, like inherent skill, to be right behind that #1 dude on the board, a steal of a pick.
I'm telling you, yeah, he might come down as one of the biggest, if not the biggest steal of the 7th round.
Sure.
If you're a Vikings fan watching this, you're gonna like him.
Sure.
Sometimes I know my dad watches our videos. Dad, he's gonna be one of the guys you're gonna love. Let's cover some of the undrafteds. We got Matt Cindric, KJ Cloyd, Jeremy Flax, Dallas Gant, Devron Harper, Ty James, Jashawn Jones, Trey Knox, Tyler Manoa, Donovan Manuel, Dwight McLeathern, Gabriel Murphy, Doug Nestor, Owen Porter, Bo Richter, Spencer Rolland, and Taki Taimani.
There's 4 guys here that, I mean, Gabe Murphy was the #1 rated undrafted free agent. They got him. Everyone thinks like
multiple years in a row we've gotten the top ranked free agent.
They got Pace Jr. last year, who turned out to be a day 1 starter.
Yep.
So I mean, Gabe Murphy was opposite Leatu Latu at UCLA. So I don't know. Just
I nerd out with the NFL draft. It's one of my favorite things in the world. This year was a little hard on me. I got very frustrated because, Vikings were constant talk, so I got burnt out faster.
Yeah, there's a lot this year.
I try to rank like my top 200 players. I usually write them down in a notebook.
Sure.
For where I had Gabe Murphy, I had him ranked as a late 5th rounder or early 5th rounder.
Sure. I think like consensus, he was like 143.
Yeah. I thought Gabe Murphy was going to be drafted in the 5th round.
Sure.
And we got him as an undrafted.
You know where Ivan Pace Jr. was projected?
Where?
5th round.
Yeah.
So,
yep.
So
I mean, that's where Gabe Murphy, I would have expected him to be taken early day 3.
Sure.
Like it's crazy to me that we got him as an undrafted. He got to choose where he wanted. He had to have a ton of suitors because that is a ton of, and I think he fell only because just like Ivan Pace, surrounded by good talent, sometimes other good talent falls. Like Ivan Pace was on Cincinnati where like Sauce Gardner took all the fame. You have all these other guys. Latu took Gabe Murphy's, a little bit of his shine.
Sure.
I think people are going to be shocked at how good he is. I think he's definitely an undrafted that makes the 53-man as well.
Yeah, there's a couple other ones on there. So the other 3 that I've heard a little bit about, Bo Richter.
Yep.
Bo Richter, Dwight McLeathern.
Okay.
And then Ty James.
Okay.
The Ty James thing, I don't know much about him in regards to like his skills or whatever, but I know he committed to the Ravens.
Yep.
And then there's another wide receiver on there that he played with. He decommitted from the Ravens and decided to join us. So I thought that was cool. Whether it was his teammate that's also there.
So my thing with that is I think he chose us due to the role that we're willing to give. We have an open wide receiver 3 spot.
Right.
As well as a returner spot is up.
Right.
And with the new return rules. So I think he took us for the opportunity as the Ravens who drafted multiple wide receivers that he would have to fight with. Like he can come here and make an impact.
Right.
I
know it's cool that his teammate also was here too.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's one.
Trey Knox, I think, makes the roster. is
Sure.
a tight end. I think that's where we might see one of
We
our.
have a lot. We have a lot of
I was
tight
people are
ends.
worried
Like,
that like, oh, we're gonna start seeing players go. I think we're gonna see a couple of those tight ends that you like. You're gonna see a couple of them maybe go because guys like Trey Knox exist.
who's that? Who's our third right now? Um,
The blocking dude, the huge dude that came from the Jets, right?
no, that's our second guy. He came from the Jags.
Whatever.
Uh, Whatever. Yeah, yeah.
So you thought Bo Richter, the linebacker, I thought that has a really good chance to make it is Dallas Gant. I think that that's the dude. I think KJ Cloyd's probably a practice squad guy. There's a couple other guys. Out of the wide receivers, Harper or James or Jones. I thought that James is going to make the roster.
Sure,
Um, Harper is the other guy from Mercer, by the way, Devron Harper.
sure.
Um, but I
I've heard a
Deshaun
lot of
Jones,
good things about McLovern too. Like
and
they
that's
think
one of
that
the other guys. Gabe Murphy, McGlothern, Knox, and Gant would be the
right.
ones that if there were four to
I
for
think
sure make it.
Richter's one of those kind of like athletic freaks that
Yeah,
that they talked about.
which
So
tends to be consistent with Air Force players.
sure.
They just like if they tend to make the NFL, they often are athletic freaks because
Right.
their first love is the country. Their
Right.
second love tends to be football. So that in
Sure.
order to be so talented at football, I feel like that's so consistent with Air Force players.
Sure.
Um, Taymani could be good. By the way, he's just sneaky. It just
Yeah.
they'll slide him in there, but we need D line so much that
I know.
he's a big boy, and
Right.
I think a big boy from a good school like Oregon, he has that chance. I
Sure.
just think there's a few undrafted studs that we got. I think Gabe Murphy is the biggest steal out of all of them, but McGlothern, Knox, James, even Harper, but Gant. There's a couple guys like Flax, Cloyd, Cindric. I don't
Right.
think are doing anything, but I'm
Yeah.
excited. I really like
Yeah.
what they did defensive wise. And like I mentioned earlier, I think it's just the new phase of Vikings
Vikings
football, at least
football.
for this year, maybe next. Um, Overall, I would give this draft a B plus or A minus.
Sure.
I think the biggest miss for me was the position, the top pick that we made, but it's
Sure.
not even a miss because who the hell am I to say JJ McCarthy won't be good?
Right.
So
Yeah. At the end of
I
the day, we
loved
don't
it.
know anything. You know what I mean? Like,
I loved this draft. I think three teams got A pluses overall from me. The Eagles, the Ravens, and the Commanders. I
sure.
think those three teams hit like every time they picked. That's one of my favorite players in the draft. What the
Sure.
hell? They got him. They got all three of those teams. Eagles so consistent. Ravens so consistent. Eagles, Ravens, Commanders. I think won this
The
draft, but
The
Vikings did a good
Bears with
job.
what they did with their like 5 picks, I thought the
Yeah,
Bears did really well as well.
Bears did well.
I just
Overall,
think
though, Vikings B plus
The
A
Bears
minus.
didn't draft any O line,
Yeah,
and their O line is not great at
yeah.
all.
Worst O line in the division.
Yeah, so that's what scares me. It's like, okay, let's be honest. Can he throw while getting hit? Is what,
Sure.
but
Well, let us know what you thought of the Vikings draft picks. We're interested to hear what you have to say. And are you excited for JJ McCarthy? I want to hear what you have to think. Check us out on Twitter, Facebook, all that. Facebook, yuck. Twitter, YouTube, subscribe, share, and we'll get the itch to you next week.
yes, peace.